Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by three Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and Conversation.
The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. And the way to be happy is to make other people happy.
Jan Hively is a social entrepreneur who transforms how communities view aging and lifelong work. She organizes networks that empower older adults to identify and share their strengths as advocacy leaders who help themselves, each other, and their communities. Jan is an internationally known writer, speaker, teacher, community organizer, and group facilitator, and her mission is to inspire meaningful work through the last breath. After a career in city planning and administration, Jan Hively earned her PhD in 2001 at age 69. Since then, Jan has co-founded several thriving networks that support positive aging, the most current of which is the Pass It On Network. Moira Allan is the Paris-based co-founder and international coordinator for the global Pass It On Network, a peer-learning network of positive aging advocates who meet virtually to explore, document, and spread concepts, activities, and resources that are shaping a new way of talking and of being as we adapt to a longer lifespan. Through the Pass It On Network, Moira is involved with UN's Open-Ended Working Group on Aging and is a member of UN's Stakeholders Group on Aging. She is also involved with Europe's Task Force on Human Rights, along with French and African associations on aging.
Well, welcome everybody to the bright side of longevity, and Danielle and Teresa, we're happy to have you with us, and we are even more happy to have two people who I personally have admired for, I can't tell you how long. These people are inspiring to me. They are social entrepreneurs. They think globally, and they have done so much fine work. You heard their resumes, but I want you to hear from them today because their stories and their stories are remarkable. And Jan, Moira, welcome. We're so happy to have you here today.
Moira, let's start with you. Could you tell us, please, about the Pass It On Network and the role of technology and how that comes into play in achieving the goals of the Pass It On Network?
Well, the Pass It On Network is a global peer learning network for positive aging advocates around the world. You know, we're living such an exciting time, number one. And number two, we're creating a new generation because there is no history of this generation. It's the new generation that comes between, say, 65 and then goes on because of longevity. We've got so many more opportunities that society hasn't cast a role yet for us. So we, in fact, are the ones who have to create that role. And in order to do this, the most exciting thing to do is to look around the world because this is a total world phenomenon. And the role of technology is just amazing because, quite frankly, if there wasn't and if there hadn't been the internet and technology, we would never have got off the ground. I first came to this because I was scared when I was coming up to retirement and I was wondering how I was going to look after myself financially for the rest of my life. And I came across, thanks to the internet, a site called Too Young to Retire. That led me to the first Positive Aging Conference in Florida, where I met Jan. And then Jan came to visit me in Paris. And then we started this relationship, friendship, mentorship, everything that you like. And it was just amazing. Jan's on Cape Cod, I'm in Paris, 5,500 kilometers away. And thanks to the free tools that we can get through the internet, we've built an absolutely wonderful, exciting network that has 75 liaisons in 55 countries on every single continent. And we're all involved in this positive aging revolution and writing our own future.
Lovely thing also, I think, about a network of which is what we've got here through the internet we can have the energy of people's resources contributed for whatever the issue is from all around the world. And it's flat. It's not a hierarchy. All of us are peers together. That's what's so wonderful about it. The energy flows from one place to another along the network.
That is wonderful. And Jan, I have a question for you, because I've heard you say meaningful work, paid or unpaid, through the last breath. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Sure can. I've been really focused on the meaning of work since the late 80s, and thinking about it for young people as well as for old people. I think about it because I think it's important to recognize that work is so much more than employment. We tend to think about work equated with paid work, but I wanted to acknowledge what young people and old people do, which isn't paid for, and yet is so important to the community. So I got my PhD at the age of 69, and I did that with a thesis on the topic of productive aging in rural communities, because I wanted to acknowledge the fact that older adults, through their caregiving, through their care for their grandkids, through their help for the neighbors, are doing such wonderfully productive work that really has economic value in these communities, particularly in rural communities, because so often the young people have gone off to the city and never come back and left the old people behind. What I found was just remarkably productive people. And so it was important to me to show that the work that people do, that it has meaning for others, that has some value because it builds on their interests, it takes advantage of their experience, and it does have some social impact. So the story then was to say, how do we encourage older adults to understand their potential and the positive aspect of what they're doing every day, and to focus on that sense of passion and purpose that we know is actually contributes to healthy aging. People who are doing committed, who are doing things that build on their strengths and interests, definitely feel better about themselves and feel in control of life. So much so that actually most people in their 80s say that they're happy. A higher percentage say that they're as happy as they've been in any time in their lives, which is remarkable given the fact that often they have physical disabilities as well.
That's amazing. You know, we all know what a sense of purpose does for our health, well-being, our longevity even, and as well as the quality of our lives. So, and of course, Danielle and Teresa hear it all too often from me, is that, you know, I realize in writing the book that I wrote that the whole story of our species, you know, we were hunter-gatherers for most of the time we've been on Earth, and elders were absolutely critical to the survival, the education, the training, the guidance. You know, we wouldn't be here today, I think, if people didn't listen to elders in our hunter-gatherer society. So this fits with who we are as a species. So, Jan, Moira, I know that you, and your resume said it, but that you work with the UN, and I'm so thankful that you do, and that's how we become global, and that they have sustainable development goals for 2030. Would you mind speaking a little bit about that?
There are 17 sustainable development goals that comprise the United Nations plan for 2030. There's a working group on aging, which meets every year at the UN building in New York City. And delegates come from countries all around the world, because what they're doing is looking at the rights of older persons, just as they already have in past years looked at the rights of women or looked at the rights of children. And they're trying to figure out what should be in a convention of human rights that would be integrated within the language of these sustainable development goals. And I think that we are both, Moira and I, are just dedicated to thinking about the potential for bringing older adults more positively into the mainstream. For example, as they talk about education, to make sure that they're talking about access for older adults and for people to what is important to be able to be employed, to earn income. All of these things in this world of the longevity economy require the updating and reskilling and upskilling of education lifelong. So it's important, for example, and this is just one example, to make sure that the Sustainable Development Goal 8, which is relevant to education, includes the involvement of older adults, so that we have education access, low cost, available to help us earn income, or to help us just gain more in our lives from continuous learning.
And I think the very first thing that strikes me with the Sustainable Development Goals is that we first and foremost have a responsibility to be sustainable ourselves as long as possible, to take care and to take charge of ourselves, and to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And as we've said earlier on, that the more you're involved, the more you remain healthy, and the more you remain productive, and the more you remain energized and interested. And that's the very first thing, to be sustainable ourselves, and then we can help our families, we can help our communities. And at this particular point in time, need we remind ourselves that we've got this incredible pandemic going on at the moment, and we can also see the incredible difference that no air traffic and other traffic has made to the planet already. People are talking about all sorts of positive effects on nature. In other words, we're coming to realize that nature doesn't need us, in fact. And the less we interfere with nature, the better nature gets on with it. But we really are, I think, as far as the world is concerned, at the 11th hour. And it's a question of all hands on deck. We need everybody out there, regardless of their age. And let's stop putting everybody into age boxes, because it's just natural for people to mix up and to be together. And those 17 Sustainable Development Goals are really a very wonderful framework. They have the 17 goals, they touch absolutely everything. And in that, there are 169 sub-goals. And everybody could just benefit from having a read through there, looking in there, and then seeing what energizes them and where they would like to be involved. And it doesn't have to be global, it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be collecting bottle tops. It can just be stopping plastics. It can just, etc. But everybody needs consciously and mindfully to become involved in this whole effort of saving our planet and ourselves. That's what I think.
And I'm glad you do. And it's music to our ears. This phrase that we're hearing so much today relative to the pandemic is that we're all in this together. Well, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than just this pandemic. It's our species. It's our time on this globe, and we are indeed all in it together. And the challenges are ones that I believe need a collective answer. We're all better with others, and if someone thinks they have all the answers, I'm sure they're not going to do very well.
I just wanted to say one thing. I loved what Moira said about read collectively and then pick something, because it can get overwhelming to try to do everything, but what resonates with you, and do that. And I really loved that point. So thank you for saying that.
Well, and you have talked about global thinking. Why and how do we involve people? It comes down to such simple thing, which is just, what's your interest and what do you want to share? What are you curious about? People get so excited about being able to talk with people in other countries, as we do in our various calls. It's so exciting to be able to share with others. And it's amazing what technology has done for us. Moira was involved in Africa, particularly because she comes from South Africa originally. And we have a wonderful group of liaisons in numerous African countries. But they all came together for a conference at the end of 2018 on healthy aging, the first one of its kind in Africa. What had attracted them there? 80% of those who attended the conference, which was in Lagos, in Nigeria, had come because of the WhatsApp application. They may have no newspapers, no radio, no electricity, but they have that cell phone. They can also use that for online learning. And we can offer our webinars, our programs with people all over the world. It's so exciting.
Let's hear it for technology. And you're getting that from me. Sometimes my colleagues know I can focus sometimes on the dark side of technology, but no, not these days. That's just magnificent.
Jan, you mentioned, we mentioned earlier that you earned your PhD at age 69, and I personally find that remarkable. And I wonder how many people in their 60s are thinking it's too late, or, I'm past the time. So I just want to acknowledge that. And as sort of a segue to my next question, which was, tell us, both of you, would you, about success stories, personal, individual success stories from your work with the Pass It On Network?
I think for me, the really exciting thing is that we've managed to spread over all the continents. And I just get such a kick, in the morning. I'm sitting in the middle. So I've got, on the left, I got all the way to Hawaii, and on the right, all the way to New Zealand. And in the morning, in the day, I can be speaking to people from all over, just change around. And I just absolutely love that. That's what energizes me. So we're on the continents, and what we're really working hard at is having regional networks so that people can get together. And we need, as we said earlier, to have incremental growth. So to me, that really is one of the biggest highlights for me for the Pass It On Network.
I love the fact that members of our network have begun to work together independently. And as an example, Hans Gudmundsson in Iceland worked with people in Spain and in Poland and in Lithuania with some funding from the European Commission. And they have generated what they call the warehouse of opportunities. It's like going into a grocery store, And you have a kind of, they have it, the store divided into 12 sections by topic area, so that you can go in and you can look at your shelf, the shelves in the area for, how to get together with caregiving, for example. Or you might have it in language learning. They then have worked with others, for example, Cullen in Hawaii, to document the educational opportunities and learning opportunities in that area, so that in each country now, and this is developing globally, the country can have its own language, Icelandic, which is, God forbid, we would try to communicate in, or Polish or Lithuanian. They have the shelves filled, but they also have it in English, because thank gosh, we have the good fortune of having our language spoken everywhere as the official language. So we can go into our warehouse of opportunities and we can see what's available from these various countries as learning opportunities, which is just phenomenal to be able to work on that together, and to have all of this being done with people with just really minimal at cost.
Just a question of maybe clarification. Can anyone join the Pass It On network? And if so, what would be the benefits of joining?
The Pass It On network is open. The first step for anybody would be to subscribe to our newsletter, which is a free newsletter. And we're just busy transforming our rather static web page now into a community village. And that community village will have communication facilities which will enable anybody to communicate across the planet at no costs. And we'll also have the Zoom facility built in to that. So there'd be different stages. The first would be the newsletter, and then the second would be to become a member of the community. And the benefits are to share, and the benefits are to grow together, and to know that you're not alone, and that you have got a strong community around you, and that this community is birthing itself, it's emerging, and that we can all be part of that. And that is, I think, one of the biggest benefits, is that people can gain strength from that. Jan?
The liaisons that we have in each country are responsible, are typically involved already in organizing older adults in one way or another, perhaps through a third age university program. Well, let's just talk about third age universities and lifelong learning. One of our members, who's in Oxford in England, has set up a monthly forum on the first Sunday of every month on a topic for people who are interested in humanities getting together. So it's, the sky's the limit, really, as far as how they're going to make use of this. But they typically are people who are already interested and curious and eager to communicate across the borders. We also have liaisons from our partner organizations, and in that case, they're eager for people to join their programs. They're eager to show their wares to us, and that often comes in the form of an article, for example, in our newsletter, with a connection to their website or to a video. So it's both for individuals and for organizations, it's a place to meet and connect and to share interests.
Before we wrap up, we want to make sure that people know how to find you and become involved. So where's the best place for people to go online to learn more about the Pass It On network?
They can simply log into our website, which is simply www, and then Pass It On Network, all in one long word, .org. And there they will find a button where they can click on and subscribe to the newsletter. And that's the first step.
Well, you've both been filled with charm and grace, and we've been honored to have you on this show. We'd like to come back sometime and track your progress with this. You know, we all know the blue zones, those places where people age and get very old and with vitality. And we know that in blue zones, they look at elders as cultural treasures. Well, I think we should both look at you as global treasures. Please take care of yourself, particularly during this time, but because you are treasures and you are literally the glue that is bringing our species more together to accomplish even more together, because we are indeed better together.
May we just say thank you to you, Roger, and to Danielle and to Teresa. We can be around this table together, and we share our goals and our objectives. And that is to really realize the potential for extraordinary potential of aging.
We hope this podcast is a source of inspiration. If you're ready to dive deeper into these concepts and really apply them in your life, join us over at Master Life. You'll have a personalized experience and lots of support to create your own long, bright future. mymasterlife.com. You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.